I think one of the greatest challenges for telling personalized stories in media is actually how we define the term personalized. I think it's been kind of self-created as an industry that we need to be telling stories on a one-to-one basis through media channels. And frankly, that isn't technically feasible, nor is it probably right for most brands in that channel. What I think we need to do is pivot a little bit away from the conversation of addressable, just meeting audience targeted to telling stories to people based on the environment they're in, based on the things that they've engaged with historically, as a cohort or in a one to some or even one to many audience that can still be personalized without needing to be one-to-one audience targeted. So I think to sum that up, what I would suggest as an industry we do to tell better personalized stories is stop trying to tell one-to-one stories and instead think about audiences as cohorts based on not only who they are, but what they're doing in the moment and contextually where we're reaching them.
How would you define contextual advertising and how has it become an efficient way to reach consumers?
The way I would define contextual advertising is the ability to reach audiences in certain moments and in certain environments. So, as I mentioned before, I think somewhere along the way, we started conflating the term addressable with audience targeted. When addressable truly just means reaching individuals or groups of people in certain moments. That doesn't have to be based on cookies or based on unique identifiers as to who that person is. It can instead be what they're engaging in, what they're watching on TV. If we reach them in an Olympics moment, that is a contextually relevant moment because what we're showing to them is aligning to the context or the content they're viewing. So as I think about contextual as a means of reaching the right audiences, I think about it as a way to identify the not the who necessarily, but the when and the how that we reach them, in what environments and when in what moments and what mindset they're in, which actually historically we've been able to prove can be a lot more effective than just reaching someone based on who they are or what their cookie identifier says about them.
How do you or Digitas use contextual advertising? Is there any examples, broadly speaking, that you could share?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the way that we use contextual at Digitas has really evolved and matured over time. Going back to when I started in the industry, contextual really meant showing a food ad next to a recipe, right? So you were in the right context because someone was thinking about food and you were showing them food. I think the way that we've evolved context and really what technology has made possible over time and AI is making even more possible is the ability to go deeper than that. Not only go to the level of they're baking a s'more, therefore I need to show them a marshmallow, but also going to the level of what are the other things they do before they're about to make that s'more? And how do I reach them in those contexts as well, based on what I know about that, their likelihood and their propensity to be interested in my ad?
Okay, we talked about how far along contextual AI is. So where do you see it in the next year? What are we looking at?
I think a lot of the decisions. So as I think about the next year and where contextual advertising is headed, it is really set to be accelerated by AI and technology like AI to help us go beyond what you or I might think of when we think of the right context. I mentioned that example of food goes next to a recipe. That's something a human can say, you know what, I assume that when people are looking at recipes, they're interested in food content, and therefore I'm going to serve that. That's kind of a decision you can make as an individual. But what I think we can use the AI and technology writ large to frankly help us do is understand the moments of receptivity that might not be front and center or obvious to us, but instead allow the technology and the data itself to dictate to us what the right contexts and moments are. So where should I be aligning my message to, and in what moments for that audience is it going to be, are they going to be the most receptive? And I think that's how we can use the technology, not just to say, okay, now go find those food placements faster and better and at greater scale, but instead allow the data, allow the consumer response to dictate to us the right context.